Legend is a 1985 movie directed by Ridley Scott. It wasn't a commercial hit, but it has developed a cult following. Most of you will probably know this movie as the one that has Tim Curry as a giant sexy Satan. But beyond that, is it worth a watch? Well, the story of the movie is your basic good versus evil kind of business, so there's not much to speak in this regard. You got Jack, your good guy, Darkness, your evil guy, and Lily, your damsel in distress. The only problem I got with the story, it's probably its climax, but I'll get to it in a bit. Where I think this movie shines is in its visuals. The sets and backgrounds, just look at the scene where they kill the unicorn, it looks so cool. Although I do think some of the times they can get a little clustered, especially when the scene is set in spring. Just look at that, it's any allergic person's nightmare. The creature design is also cool, the way the goblins and all the magic beings look. And I couldn't talk about the creature design without talking about the biggest standouts of this movie. Meg Mucklebones, with the creepy way she moves and talks, she looks so gross and swampy. And Darkness, god damn does this thing look menacing and powerful. And Tim Curry does an amazing job. He gives the character a certain grace and demeanor that if it were another actor playing it, it would just seem like your generic evil guy. For me, it's the kind of performance that should be enough to give this movie a watch. Another thing worth mentioning is the tone of the movie, which the first few times I watched the movie I had a problem with it. In some parts the movie looked like a love story targeted for kids, and others way too creepy and intense for kids. And some just look very weird and surreal. But I think these shifts in tone are somewhat purposeful. It is meant to feel like an old fairy tale, meant to entertain, teach, and scare. In the beginning of the video I said I had a problem with its climax, and here's why. So the main character Jack is supposed to be the representation of good and innocence, like it says on the title scroll of the theatrical version, and Darkness is supposed to be evil. So in my interpretation of the story is that Lily is meant to represent us, a being both capable of good and evil, and it's up to us to fight, to be good and not let ourselves be consumed by our regrets and desperation. Because of this, and because she's the most flawed character, she is in a way kinda responsible for the death of the unicorn and is tempted by Darkness, which makes her a more interesting and relatable character, compared to Jack at least. So in my alternate scene, it would be her striking the last blow on Darkness, saving Jack instead. This movie is also known for its different versions, mainly the theatrical and the director's cut. I would personally recommend the director's cut just because it's longer, so more Meg Mucklebones, and the editing is less choppy. The soundtrack depends if you like Tangerine Dream or not. To some is what makes or breaks each of the versions, but it didn't really matter to me. I guess it depends if you want a more 80s sounding soundtrack or a more classic fantasy soundtrack. Overall, I would recommend this movie. It's worth a watch, especially if you like fantasy movies with a dark surrealist twist to it and really cool visual. I would give this movie 4 out of 5 Meg Mucklebones.